Daf Yomi. Daf Yomi Tractate Bava, page 115a, top of the page, with the words Lo tzarich lehadore ale kuli hai v'chule. One does not need to pursue the matter in all this detail. The Gemara questions this ruling. Perhaps he needed money, and therefore he sold the items, despite the fact that he does not generally sell his personal belongings. The Gemara answers that Rav Ashi said a rumor spread in the city that he had been a victim of theft. It is reasonable to assume that he is the rightful owner, as he does not usually sell his belongings, and it is common knowledge that he was the victim of theft. Having assessed the Mishnah's ruling with regard to a case where the thief remained unidentified, the Gemara discusses a case where the thief was found. It was stated in a case where a thief stole an item and sold it, and later the thief was identified. Rav says, in the name of Rabbi Chia, the homeowner's claim can be pursued only with the first one. In other words, the thief, but he has no claim against the purchaser. Rabbi Yochanan says, in the name of Rabbi Yanai, the homeowner's claim can also be pursued with the second one, which is the purchaser. Rav Yosef said, Rav and Rabbi Yochanan do not disagree. Here, in the case about which Rabbi Yochanan issues his ruling, the item was purchased from the thief before the victim of the theft despaired of recovering the stolen item. Consequently, the claim can be pursued even with the second one, in other words, the purchaser. Conversely, there, in the case about which Rav issues his ruling, the item was purchased after the victim despaired, and therefore the claim can be pursued only with the first one, in other words, the thief. Rav Yosef continues, and both Rav and Rav Yochanan have accepted as halacha the ruling of Rav Chisda, 111b, that if the owner had not yet despaired of retrieving his item, he can press his claim against either the thief or the purchaser. Abaye said to Rabbi Yosef, and is it so that Rav and Rabbi Yochanan do not disagree? Isn't a case involving gifts to which members of the priesthood are entitled comparable to a case of a stolen item that was sold before the onset of the owner's despair, as the priest still hopes to receive the gifts? And yet Rav and Rav Yochanan disagree with regard to their legal status. This is as we learned in a Mishnah in Chulin 132a. If one said to a butcher, sell me the innards of a cow, and the gifts of the priesthood were in them, the purchaser must give the gifts to a priest, and he may not deduct the value of the gifts from the money he agreed to pay the butcher. By contrast, if he purchased the innards from a butcher by weight, he must give the gifts to a priest, and he may deduct the value of the gifts from the money he agreed to pay the butcher. And Rav says they taught this halacha only where the purchaser weighed the innards for himself. But if the butcher weighed the innards for him, the priest's claim may be pursued only with the butcher. The butcher is comparable to a thief when he sells the gifts of the priesthood to a non-priest, and Rav holds that the priest can press his claim only against the butcher. Similarly, in the case of the Mishnah, he would hold that the owner can press his claim only against the thief and not against the purchaser. The Gemara refutes Abaya's objection. Say that Rav meant that the priest can even pursue his claim with the butcher although he is certainly able to claim the gifts from the purchaser. And Rav had to teach this, lest you say that gifts of the priesthood are not considered to have been stolen, even if the butcher sells them, because wherever they are, they remain the legal property of the priests. Rav therefore teaches us that they are considered to have been stolen in this case, and therefore the priest can press his claim against the butcher. The Gemara asks, and according to Abaya, who said that Rav and Rabbi Yochanan disagree, with regard to what do they disagree? The Gemara answers they disagree with regard to the ruling of Rav Chisda. Rav disagrees with Rav Chisda and rules that one is entitled to collect only from the thief, while Rabbi Yochanan accepts the ruling of Rav Chisda and allows one to collect from either the thief or the purchaser. The Gemara presents another explanation of the dispute between Rav and Rabbi Yochanan. Rav Zvid said that both agree that if the owner has not yet despaired of retrieving his item, he can press his claim against either party. They disagree in a case where the owner is despaired of retrieving it only after the item was already in the possession of the purchaser, but they did not despair when it was in the possession of the thief. And it is with regard to this that they disagree. One sage, Rabbi Yochanan, holds that if there is despair on the part of the owner, and afterward there is a change in possession of a stolen item, for example, it leaves the possession of the thief and enters the possession of a purchaser, the purchaser acquires the item. By contrast, if there is first a change in possession of the stolen item, and afterward there is despair on the part of the owner, then the purchaser does not acquire the item, since in this case the owner did not despair until after the change of possession from thief to the purchaser. The purchaser did not legally acquire the item, and the owner can press his claim against him. And one sage, Rav, holds that there is no difference whether the despair or change of possession came first. As long as the owner has despaired of recovering his item, it becomes the property of the purchaser, and the owner cannot demand that he return it. The Gemara presents a third explanation of the dispute. Rav Papa said that with regard to a stolen cloak itself, everyone agrees that it must be returned by the purchaser to its owner. But here, it is with regard to whether the sages implemented the provision ensuring the integrity of the marketplace. In this case, that Rav and Rabbi Yochanan disagree. Rav says in the name of Rabbi Chia that the claim can be pursued only with the first one, that is the thief, meaning that the law with regard to the purchaser is that after returning the item to its owner, he can collect money only from the thief, and the sages did not implement the provision ensuring the integrity of the marketplace in this case. Rabbi Yochanan says in the name of Rabbi Yanai that the claim of the purchaser can be pursued with the second one, meaning that the law with regard to the purchaser is that he can also collect the money from the owner when he returns the item to him, and the sages did implement the provision ensuring the integrity of the marketplace in this case. The Gemara questions this answer. And did Rav hold that the sages did not implement the provision ensuring the integrity of the marketplace in this case? But wasn't Rav Huna a student of Rav, and yet when a certain thief known as Hanan the Wicked stole a cloak and then sold it, and the case came before Rav Huna, he said to that man, from whom the cloak was stolen, go redeem your pledge from the purchaser. In other words, reimburse the purchaser for the garment that he returned to you. Evidently, Rav's own student held that the sages did allow a purchaser to claim reimbursement from the owner. The Gemara answers that Hanan the wicked is different, since he has no money. There is no way for the purchaser to collect payment from him, and the case is therefore comparable to a case where the thief was not identified, with regard to which case the sages implemented the provision ensuring the integrity of the marketplace. Rava says if he is a well-known thief, the sages did not implement the provision ensuring the integrity of the marketplace. In this case, the purchaser should have been aware that the item may be stolen and should not have purchased it. Gemara asks, but wasn't Hanan the wicked well known, and yet according to Rav Huna, the sages implemented the provision ensuring the integrity of the marketplace in this case? The Gemara answers, although he was well known for villainy, he was not well known for theft. The Gemara continues to examine the provision ensuring the integrity of the marketplace. It was stated, with regard to one who stole and repaid his debt with the stolen item, or one who stole and repaid his debt from credit that was extended to him with the stolen item, the sages did not implement the provision ensuring the integrity of the marketplace in this case, as they say to this creditor, it was not with the expectation of receiving these stolen items that you gave the debtor anything. With regard to the integrity of the marketplace, it was also stated that if a thief provided a stolen item worth 200 dinars as collateral for a loan of 100 dinars, the sages implemented the provision ensuring the integrity of the marketplace in this case. Consequently, the creditor is entitled to reimbursement from the owner for returning the collateral. If the collateral and the loan were of equal value, a Maimar said, the sages did not implement the provision ensuring the integrity of the marketplace in this case, while Mar Zutra said the sages did implement the provision ensuring the integrity of the marketplace in this case. The Gemara comments, and the halacha is in accordance with the opinion of Mar Zutra that the sages did implement the provision ensuring the integrity of the marketplace in this case. The Gemara examines other applications of this provision. In a sale, if the stolen item was purchased for an amount equal to actual market value, the sages implemented the provision ensuring the integrity of the marketplace in this case. If a stolen item worth 100 dinars was purchased at the price of 200 dinars, Rav Sheshet says, the sages did not implement the provision ensuring the integrity of the marketplace in this case. While Rava says, the sages did implement the provision ensuring the integrity of the marketplace in this case, the Gemara states, and the halacha is, that all these cases, the sages implemented the provision ensuring the integrity of the marketplace, except with regard to one who stole and repaid his debt with the stolen item, and one who stole and repaid his debt from credit that was extended to him with the stolen item. The Gemara recounts a related incident. Avimi Bar Nazi, the father-in-law of Ravina, was owed 4 dinars by a certain man, who then stole a cloak and brought it to Avimi as repayment for the loan. Avimi then lent him 4 additional dinars. In the end, the thief was identified as the debtor, and the case came before Ravina to determine whether or not the owner would have to pay Avimi for returning the cloak. Ravina said to Avimi, with regard to the first 4 dinars that were lent, the thief is viewed as one who stole and repaid his debt. and the owner is not required to give anything in exchange for the garment's return, as the sages' ordinance ensuring the integrity of the marketplace does not apply in such a case. With regard to those 4 additional dinars, take your money from the owner of the cloak and return the cloak to him. Since Avimi lent the second set of dinars only because he had received the cloak, Ravina ruled that the sage's ordinance applied to him. Rav Kohen objects to this. But perhaps the cloak was given to Avimi only in payment for the first 4 dinars, and it was a case of a thief who stole and repaid his debt, or who stole and repaid his debt from credit that was extended to him with the stolen item. And the latter 4 dinars was loaned because Avimi trusted the debtor just as he trusted him initially when he lent the first 4 dinars. The cloak was not collateral for the second loan, and therefore the sage's ordinance should not apply. The matter circulated until it came before Rabbi Bahu, who said the halacha is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Kohen. The Gemara recounts another incident. A resident of Narish stole a scroll and sold it to a resident of Papunya for 80 dinars. The resident of Papunya then went and sold it to a resident of Mahoza for 120 dinars. In the end, the thief was identified, and Abaye said the original owner of the scroll should go and give the resident of Mahoza 80 dinars and take his scroll in return. And afterward, the resident of Mahoza should go and take the remaining 40 dinars from the resident of Papunya. Rava objects to this. Now, that has been established that with regard to one who purchases from a thief, the sages implemented the provision ensuring the integrity of the marketplace in this case, despite the fact that he dealt with the thief directly. Is it necessary to teach that the same would apply to one who purchased the stolen item from a purchaser? Accordingly, the final purchaser is entitled to receive from the original owner the full amount that he paid for the item. Rather, Rava said that the original owner of the scroll should go and give the resident of Mahoza 120 dinars and take his scroll in return. And afterward, the original owner of the scroll should go and collect 40 dinars from the resident of Papunya and 80 dinars from the resident of Naresh, and each profited from the sale in these amounts respectively. New Mishnah. In a situation where this individual came with his barrel of wine, and that individual came with his jug of honey, if the barrel of honey cracked, and this first individual poured out his wine and salvaged the other's honey, which is worth more than the wine, by collecting it into his wine barrel, to be continued.